Well, this past week I sucked. Basically like the Vikings defense. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to another episode of Podcast, the podcast where you don't have to Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. I hope things get better, not only for the Packers season, but also for my predictions, Grossi. And today we are going to be breaking down and predicting every single game in Week 15 of the NFL. And ladies and gentlemen, the bye weeks are done. No teams left on a bye week for the rest of the season. We got a full schedule. We got 4 days of football in the next 5 days.
This is where the fun begins.
I hope there's just actual good football that's going to be played. Last week, I went a pitiful 6-7 on the week. A ton of upsets. I'm 126-80 on the season. Here are the list of all the games that I got wrong and got right. And it's been tough going. However, maybe this will be my redemption in Week 15. Plus, the Packers actually might win, so when I pick them every week, it might be a good pick. So starting off with the Thursday night football game, we got an NFC West showdown between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers beat the absolute piss out of Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I mean just wiped the floor with them. The defense was absolutely suffocating against Brady. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. And every time they had a completion, it was held back because of holding on their offensive line. Their offense moved the ball with ease against the Tampa Bay defense, absolutely crushing them. And Brock Purdy dealing with an injury. We'll see if he's going to be ready for Thursday night football. But either way, the 49ers, they are on a roll, and they are a team you do not want to face right now. Meanwhile, the Seahawks, they are trending in the wrong direction. Rough couple of weeks. Now put on top of that a loss to the Panthers. The Panthers said, hey, let's just run the ball and have a strong defense. Sound familiar? Legion of Boom days. Well, those days are very long gone for the Seahawks. Their run defense is non-existent. Geno Smith still playing pretty damn well. There's talks about a long-term extension on the way potentially with Seattle. We'll see if that works out. But when they have no run game, their offense is pretty flat. But their defense is the real problem here. So as I just mentioned, their run defense is not good. And the 49ers, they run the ball pretty damn well. The 49ers were able to beat the Seahawks their first interaction. I imagine it's going to be the same here. 49ers are going to take this one. Then you got the Indianapolis Colts taking on the purple incarnation of Satan, the Minnesota Vikings. The Colts enjoyed a nice bye week, which they needed. They had 50 points scored on them the last time they played, and it was in prime time, so you guys deserved a day off. However, Jeff Saturday gonna be spending his Saturday at US Bank Stadium.
Nothing I like better than the inside of a bank on a beautiful Saturday.
Taking on the Minnesota Vikings, coming off a tough loss against the Detroit Lions. Speaking of terrible defense, the Vikings have one. Ed Donatel, I don't know if he's gonna make it back from Detroit just because they might not have let him on the plane, and he might be walking back to Minnesota.
You were born what the feet would bring.
The Vikings defense is absolutely atrocious. They've allowed 400 yards of offense in their past 5 games, and it's looking pitiful. Justin Jefferson, a bright spot on that team, and they're going to need to bring it here against a bad Colts team. Because the Colts, they kept it close with the Cowboys, except for the fourth quarter, and the Vikings, they came back in the fourth quarter. So maybe there'll be something here. I imagine the Vikings are still going to get the win because they are just the better football team. But good God, if Matt Ryan is able to defeat them, I will not stop laughing. Following that, you got the second of 3 Saturday games. You got the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Cleveland Browns. If you look it up right now, tickets for this game are going for $10. 10. Yeah, I don't really know who's going to want to go to this game unless you're there to boo Deshaun Watson.
Deal.
The Ravens coming off a big win against a division rival. It doesn't matter which QB they have, the Ravens were able to get it done. Meanwhile, the Browns coming off a tough loss against the Cincinnati Bengals, in which they just couldn't get anything going. The run game was non-existent. Their defense, well, Joe Woods is still hired, so you know how that went. And Deshaun Watson still playing terrible. Oh, hold my sweet, gentle heart. I'm so sad about it. The Ravens, they played good defense. J.K. Dobbins was able to get a good game on the ground. And listen, the Ravens, they got like their backup QB play in on Saturday. So I don't have very high expectations. Their offense really wasn't functioning with Lamar Jackson in there. But if they're able to stick with the ground game and play good, strong defense, they should be able to take down the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to pick the Ravens here. Is it out of spite? Yeah, but who knows? Maybe the Ravens will actually win. Following that, you got the prime time game between the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills. Miami Dolphins, woof. Second week in a row in prime time. This past Sunday, they were embarrassed on Sunday Night Football. That game was not as close as the score indicated. Tua really struggled. They had no ground game after Jeff Wilson was injured, and they just kept throwing over the middle of the field, which guess what? It wasn't working, and that was against a very bad defense in the LA Chargers. Meanwhile, the Bills pulling off a gritty win against the New York Jets, going up against a really good defense. They're not going to have to worry about going up against a really good defense here because the Dolphins do not have one. The Dolphins obviously got the first win against the Bills in their first game, but here, I think things are going to change. The Dolphins are on a bad trajectory right now, and the Bills, they're holding steady. They were 0-2 just a few weeks ago against division rivals. Well, now they're sitting at 2-2, and I imagine this is going to be 3-2 here. It's probably going to be a snowy day, and if the Bills are able to establish the run, I think the Bills are going to potentially run away with this one, so the Buffalo Bills win. Then you have an NFC South showdown between the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints. And I just want to take a moment here and acknowledge the fact that both of these teams could still win the NFC South. That's how bad it is. And plus, the Buccaneers suck.
Master Kenobi, you disappoint me.
Both of these teams coming off a bye week last week. And coming out of the bye, you might see things a little bit different here because Desmond Ridder is going to be starting for the Atlanta Falcons, hopefully giving them the boost that they need because Marcus Mariota, while he was admirable for a few weeks, he just wasn't cutting it anymore. Listen, we're Cordarrelle Patterson, a young rookie QB. Maybe they're going to be able to get it done. The Saints, I mean, they have a good defense sometimes. Their offense, who knows which one is going to show up? Alvin Kamara, they just refuse to give him the ball. It's basically like he's already serving his suspension for the assault charges. Because he might as well at this point because they're just not giving the ball to him. Falcons win. That much closer to winning the division. Following that, you got the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Chicago Bears. The Eagles wiping the floor with the New York Giants last week, and they were just woefully unprepared. Jalen Hurts is the front runner for MVP right now. He can run it. He can throw it. They have so many weapons. It's just a matter of which one do you want to get burned with. Meanwhile, the Chicago Bears, coming off a bye week, need to get a little bit healthy. You're going to see two mobile QBs going after one another. The Bears have a very good run game. The Eagles have a very good run game. So this actually might be a really, really short game because they're just burning clock all the time.
Now this is pod racing.
However, the Bears defense is not good, and I think Jalen Hurts is going to be able to take advantage of that. The Eagles should be able to run away with this game, and I imagine they're going to do just that on Sunday. Following that, you have one of the most important matchups for the rest of the season, and that is not hyperbole. That is the Detroit Lions taking on the New York Jets. And you might be sitting there wondering, Tom, why is this so important? Because whoever wins this game might get into the playoffs for their respective conference. Both of these teams need to get a win here. Last week, I picked the Vikings to win. Jalen Reagor picked the Vikings to win. And Dan Campbell was like,
yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
So I was wrong. Listen, the fact that you got Penei Sewell going out there looking like Jamar Chase, Dan Campbell just don't care anymore.
And I look up and we're throwing it to Penei, and I'm like, what the are we doing?
But the Lions getting a big win over the division leader, a huge boost for them as they try to enter into the playoff swing. They are still in the hunt, and they're going to have to win out here and also hope for some things to go their way. Meanwhile, the Jets, A tough game for them. Mike White being injured, but it looks like he is going to be ready to play on Sunday, which they are going to need. The Lions defense has definitely gotten better. They allow a lot of yards, but they don't allow a ton of points, at least in the first 3 quarters against the Vikings. The matchup that you're going to want to see is how does this Jets defense, which is so stingy, go up against this high-flying offense, I can't believe I'm saying this, of the Detroit Lions. They can run the ball well. They can throw the ball well. Jared Goff looked really good. This should be a really, really fun game. Originally, I would have picked the Jets because of their defense, but I think the Lions are just on too much of a hot streak right now. If they're able to survive the defense of the Jets and, of course, their field, the Lions should be able to win, and Blue Kitty will continue to go roar. Then you have another intriguing game of 2 teams trying to make the playoffs. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Carolina Panthers. The Steelers, unable to come away with the win. They played Mitch Trubisky because Kenny Pickett got hurt, and boy, oh boy, was that a mistake. If they could just have any other QB play, I think they'll have a better chance. Their run game is solid. It's gotten better over the past few weeks. Their defense, of course, is still really, really good. Meanwhile, the Panthers facing some new life here, having a win streak, which I thought was illegal in the NFC South, just like dancing was in Footloose. The Panthers, with a win and a Buccaneers loss, would be leading the division next week. Who the hell saw that coming? However, I think the Steelers' defense is going to be just a bit too much. They should be able to stop the run, and then after that, it's really going to be up to Sam Darnold, and while he has a glorious new beard, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it, so I imagine the Steelers are going to win in a very low-scoring game, similar to the Panthers-Ravens from a couple of weeks ago, and unfortunately, the Panthers won't be able to pull it off. Then you got the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Cowboys, oh boy, had them for the first 3.5 quarters. Not gonna lie, almost losing to the Houston Texans, and if only the Texans could convert on 4th and goal, but they couldn't. There's definitely some room for concern for the Dallas Cowboys. They're just an up and down team. There's so many ebbs and flows. They blow out teams, and they have really close matchups against teams they shouldn't have close matchups against. And yeah, that's a bit concerning. They recently signed T.Y. Hilton, which is more of kind of a depth addition. I don't see that he's going to do a ton here. And the Cowboys, listen, they have all the tools to be a very good playoff team, but there's some concern. Meanwhile, the Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a big win against the Tennessee Titans. And Derrick Henry ran all over the Jaguars in the first half and then was not seen again for the second half. Trevor Lawrence dropping dimes. The defensive line finally woke up, getting after Ryan Tannehill. And this should definitely give Jaguars fans something to hang their hat on. This could wind up being a close game. It's being played in Jacksonville. Dak has been inconsistent at times, so watch out if this is a close game. I think the Cowboys will be able to pull it off, but maybe Spotted Kitty will go meow. Following that, you got the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Houston Texans. The Chiefs, great first 2 quarters, and then the second half happened. They kind of just took their foot off the gas. Patrick Mahomes made some really bad throws, allowed the Broncos, to get back into the game and score actually a bunch of points, which, again, I didn't think they were able to do.
This is impossible!
But they were able to come away with the win. Meanwhile, the Texans, as we just talked about, went toe-to-toe with the Cowboys, almost won, but then realized, oh wait, we're tanking. The Chiefs, this should be a get-right game for them. It really needs to be. The Texans franchise really hasn't recovered since the divisional game against the Chiefs a few years ago, and they're going to get some war flashbacks this week. I think the Chiefs will win. Following that, you got the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Denver Broncos. Woof. Not only will this probably be a battle of backup QBs, but, I mean, each coach, they just don't care anymore. They're just doing just enough so they won't get fired, like in Office Space.
It's not that I'm lazy. It's that I just don't care.
The Cardinals coming off an embarrassing defeat on Monday night to the Patriots, in which their defense was doing pretty solid for a while, but their offense was just so bad. Now, granted, it was Colt McCoy who was in there. Everybody was having a ton of injuries, but the Cardinals are just not a great football team. They're headed by a coach who is just not good. And now with Kyler Murray out for the season, things are not looking up. They're looking very, very down. Meanwhile, the Broncos, hey, you guys put up points. That's something. Russell Wilson, we'll see if he's available this week. But either way, it's not going to be a fun game. I'm actually going to pick the Broncos to win, which I told myself I wasn't going to do for the rest of the year. But the Cardinals, I've had the unfortunate pleasure of streaming a few of their primetime games. Both of them have been bad. And so I'm going to pick the Broncos to win, but it's probably going to be like 3-0. Then you got an intriguing matchup of two teams trying to make it into the playoffs. You got the New England Patriots taking on the Vegas Raiders. The Patriots, no thanks to their offense, won on Monday night against the Cardinals, and it was all due to their defense. Sacking Colt McCoy 6 times. Matthew Judon is just a stud. He should be in the conversation, by the way, for Defensive Player of the Year. Meanwhile, taking on the Raiders, who are coming off a devastating loss to the Rams. Baker Mayfield with just 2 days on the team, able to lead a comeback victory and beat them, which is pretty embarrassing. But Josh McDaniels, facing off against his old team, trying to be the master now.
When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master.
And while there was a little bit of hope for the Raiders for a hot second, that hope is kind of dissipated just a bit. This is probably going to be a very ugly game. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not going to stream it. The Patriots, as of right this second, are the 7 seed, so they need to win to hold on to that wild card spot. But to be completely honest, their defense deserves to be in there, not their offense. I'm going to pick the Raiders to win just because I think if they give the ball to Josh Jacobs enough, they should be fine. Throw it to Devontae Adams, but yeah, I got no hope there. Maybe Max Crosby is going to get a whole lot of sacks, but I'm going to pick the Raiders, but it's kind of out of pity. Then you got the Tennessee Titans taking on the LA Chargers. I laugh because if you start at the beginning of the season, you're like, oh, this is probably going to be a really good game. Now, I got no effing idea. Titans losing badly to the Jacksonville Jaguars last week. We talked about this. Derrick Henry started out strong, and then it went to absolute crap. And the Titans are such a weird team. The Titans are leading the division. They have a winning record, but I feel like they are just collapsing and collapsing hard. Todd Downing needs to be on the next Amazon flight to the moon.
That's no moon.
He's not doing that offense any favors, but they're going against the Chargers, which apparently have a defense now all of a sudden. Don't know where that came from. And their offense did more than enough. The Dolphins decided to blitz Justin Herbert, and Herbert's like, buddy,
you underestimate my power.
I could do this all day. I haven't had an offensive line since, I don't know, I was drafted. And Mike Williams catching pretty much everything coming his way. They're going to start calling him Ace. I originally picked the Titans to win this game because I think the defensive line should be able to take down Justin Herbert enough. But after seeing what the Titans did last week, I have no faith in them. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Chargers. Both these teams are not really good. One of them are probably going to make the playoffs. Maybe both. But of right now, Chargers going to charge. Boy, that's a bad thing. They're going to win. Then you got the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Woof. The Bengals, they got a win last week. Joe Mixon returning, which definitely helped. Now you have P. Ryan and Mixon back there. And of course, you have all the weapons and Joe Burrow playing well. But as I talked about in power rankings, it's the defense of the Bengals that has been impressing me. Meanwhile, the Buccaneers, yeah, we talked about this a bunch of times. They're just not a good football team. Their offensive line is banged up. They have no run game. Their defense is nowhere near where they were. And it's ugly. I think this is America's game of the week. They might wind up pulling Tom Brady and the Buccaneers yet again, as the NFL was just like, nope, you can't watch Tom Brady do this, because I'm pretty sure it was rated NC-17, the way that Tom Brady was getting screwed on Sunday. I'm going to pick the Bengals to win. They're just the much better team here. I think this gives an opportunity for the Panthers to take the division if they're able to beat the Steelers, but the Buccaneers are just a bad football team. The Bengals are trending in the right way, so kitty goes meow. Then you got Sunday Night Football. It was flexed into Sunday night. You got the New York Giants taking on the Washington Commanders. The Giants, as we talked about earlier, they got their ass kicked by the Philadelphia Eagles. And again, I got to give them some credit. I like Brian Daboll. He's doing a good job with the organization. They just got practice squad guys out there. They got so many injuries, they don't know what to do with it. Meanwhile, the Commanders, they were coming off a bye week, and they're still vying for a playoff spot. The last 2 times that these teams met, they tied. Carson Wentz getting activated off IR, so if Taylor Heineke struggles, who knows? Maybe you'll see a little bit of the Carson Wentz show, which is not going to be good for anyone. This game is not going to be good. They might tie again just for the chaos. I'm going to pick the Commanders to win because I think they are the better football team. Their defense is pretty solid, but it's probably not going to be a great game. Giants, I think, are just trending in the wrong direction and will continue to do so. So Commanders, Wildflower, you get your win. And finally, on Monday Night Football, you got the LA Rams taking on the Green Bay mother-loving Packers. The Rams, as we talked about, comeback win. Baker Mayfield basically was given the playbook on the flight over, and he was trying to read it like Frodo.
It's some form of Elvish. I can't read it.
There are a few who can.
So then at the end, he just said, screw it, I'm just going to go out and win it for you guys. And oh, he did. And I have to be a little concerned because I think Baker Mayfield is really taking on the Rams name a little too much because he's headbutting everybody when he doesn't have a helmet on. And he's headbutting people who have helmets on. So who knows if he's even going to play on Monday night. Might have to go into concussion protocol. Meanwhile, the Packers coming off their bye week. Yeah, it would have been good if we took that bye week after the London game. Maybe things would have been different, but nay, we took it much later. Packers playoff hopes? Yeah, they're still alive, but technically Gollum was still alive as he was falling into Mount Doom and kind of sitting in the lava for a little bit. That's kind of where the Packers are at. Christian Watson, been trending way up. Meanwhile, Romeo Doubs hopefully will be back for this game so we can kind of see the full extent and potential of this offense. The last time that Baker Mayfield was in Lambeau, it was Christmas, and it was not pretty for him through a whole lot of interceptions. I'm going to pick the Packers to win this game because, again, I think that they're just going to be able to overwhelm the Rams. I think their offense definitely could run it down their throat if we utilize them, and, of course, now we have weapons like Christian Watson, and the defense. Yeah, who the hell knows what we have on defense, but the Rams offense is not so good. So because of that, I'm going to go with the Packers. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. How do you think these games are going to shake out in Week 15? We're in mid-December, folks. Only a few more weeks until playoffs. Hold on to your butts. But let me know. You guys find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or TomGrossiComedy, all social media, see down below. Check out podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and of course YouTube. And a big shout out and thank you to all the patrons over patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy and the YouTube members. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.